Slowly, the days seep into weeks, and then months, and Donald's luck improves. One morning, as fall is bleeding into winter, he awakens to find a thick blanket of snow covering the island, and his crew readying a snowplow. He stares sullenly out of his shed and thinks of his twin. They used to plow snow together back in Scotland, clearing the tracks for everyone. It was one of their favorite jobs to do together. He's never done it alone. "Why do we have to do this?" he complains as his crew fasten the plow onto him. "Can't someone else do it?" His driver tries to smile. "Because you were good at it." His fireman pats his side as they climb into his cab. "Come on, Donnie, you love snow clearing." Donnie. That was what his brother used to call him. Something fractures inside Donald then. "Dinna call me that," he snaps. His crew sigh knowingly as they set off, and Donald clears the line in silence. He is lost in thought when they pull up to a junction. The snow is falling softly and he can hear other engines in the distance, and for a moment he forgets and is about to ask his brother which way they should go. Before he can, he remembers. "Donald?" his driver calls. The signal's green. Donald pulls away from the junction and continues alone. He spends the day clearing lines and drowning in thoughts of his twin. He does not realize he's crying until it's far too late. Luckily, it's only Edward and Percy who notice. They are waiting at a station when Donald puffs through. Edward looks and is about to call a greeting, but stops. He is alarmed to see tears streaming down the Scottish engine's face. "Donald?" he calls. "What's wrong?" Donald, of course, doesn't answer and keeps going. Edward is unsurprised by this, but still quite concerned. "Maybe he just really hates snow clearing," Percy suggests unconvincingly, though he too is concerned. Edward frowns as he stares after their number 9. There is no number 10, not yet. Edward has a dreadful feeling that there should be. "I don't think so, Percy," he says quietly. Something's not quite right with him. Percy rocks a bit on the rails. "Henry thinks so too," he says. The months fade into years. To Donald, it feels like centuries. One night, Henry is in the works and Donald volunteers to take the flying kipper. He has come to like taking night trains, whether they smell like fish or otherwise. He likes the quiet and the dark. He puffs along the line, delivering fish to everywhere he's supposed to. It goes smoothly, and soon he is on his way home. He drops his crew off at the station nearest where they live and continues on to his shed. His thoughts are filled with memories of another night, years prior. Him and his brother had taken the nighttime goods train, but the previous day had been long and they were very tired. They had started off bickering, which eventually evolved, and before they quite realized it, they were laughing and joking and messing about. Even their crews, who were also sleep-deprived, had joined in. They had never had such fun while pulling a train before. It was the kind of fun Donald would never have again, not without his twin. "I should have gone back. I should never have left you. I'm sorry." He rolls to a stop at a signal, even though it's green. Tears run down his cheeks and he clenches his teeth. He doesn't move. Even after so long, he is unaccustomed to feeling so alone. Twins aren't meant to be alone. He cries harder. The night wears on. At some point, he drifts off into a fitful sleep. thick fog swirls through the night air. Donald shivers and looks around, unsure of where he is and hardly able to see further than his own buffers. He rolls forward slowly, the old rails creaking under wheel. Suddenly, a deep whistle sounds from somewhere in the fog, and the sound of an engine puffing grows louder, closer. Donald jolts in shock, for he recognizes it. "Brother, is that you?" he calls. "Donnie!" a familiar voice replies, fearful. A shape like a steam engine rushes past him like a cold wind. It's more fog and steam than solid form, and its whistle is shrill, terrified. "They're after me!" Donald looks around him, the fog swirling and obscuring his surroundings. Just when he thinks he's alone again, he gets a sharp bump from behind and he gasps. "Who's there? Brother?" "Donnie," the voice replies. He hears pistons pumping again and he rolls forward. Ahead, a red light glows through the dense fog, and he realizes it's a signal. Just past the signal, on the same line, the same hazy shape of an engine sits idle for now. Fog and steam dance around it, cold and warm together. The most eerie thing about it is its face, for it hasn't got one, save for two gaping holes where its eyes should be. Donald stops, and he feels tears prick his eyes. "I'm sorry." It ignores him. "They won't help me. No one will help me find you." As the sun rises, coloring the sky red, Duck wakes to find the neighboring berth empty. Donald should be back by now, he thinks. Perhaps he was delayed. Duck sits, and he waits. The sun continues its ascent. Duck worries. The firelighter has already lit his fire, and he has just enough steam, so he decides to take a look down the line. He knows Donald was running the crewless for the last stretch, so if he ran into trouble, he'd have to sit and wait to be found. It does not take long to find the missing engine, for when he rolls up to a signal, there he is facing him. Donald is still, his eyes closed. For a moment Duck thinks he's sleeping and calls his name as he rolls closer. There are dark circles under Donald's eyes and, alarmingly, tear tracks on his cheeks. "Donald?" Duck tries again. "Donald?" Finally, Donald cracks open his eyes. They are red-rimmed and empty. "What do you want, Duck?" he grumbles. "Are you okay, Donald? You realize the signal's green, right?" "I'm fine," Donald replies non-committally. Duck is growing tired of this, for it has been years. "No, you're not, Donald. You are always miserable. God, I've never seen you not miserable. What's wrong? I won't tell anyone." Donald rolls back and forth, his eyes closed again. "I left him," he whispers. Duck frowns. "Who?" "My brother, Duck!" he cries, startling the Great Western. Duck sighs sadly. A lot of engines have siblings they've had to leave. I had to leave mine too. You didn't understand, Duck. I left my twin brother in Scotland for scrap," he practically wails. "I left him and he was scrapped. My twin." "Of course," Duck whispers. "That makes sense. Do you know for sure if he was, you know?" There are fresh tears running down Donald's cheeks. "We tried to escape together, but were caught before we even got out of the yard. The diesels dragged him off to the scrapyard then. I wanted to go back for him, but my crew refused. Duck isn't quite sure how to handle this. If only Edward were here, he'd know what to do. It's not your fault, Donald, he says instead. Donald doesn't agree. It should have been me. It should have been me. Don't say that, Duck replies. He looks around. It is almost completely light out now. We should get back to the shed. The first trains will be out soon. Then go, Donald says without looking up. Duck sighs. Donald, you can't stay here. You're blocking the line. And we have work to do. Donald huffs and steam ripples out from his undercarriage. I dinna care. Just leave me alone. With that, he shuts his eyes again. Duck frowns. He moves around, getting behind Donald and pushing him back to the shed. The other engine does not protest. When they arrive, he rolls to the back corner of the shed and stays there.